what a problem that is. But, you know, they do that to me all the time at the school district, so I'm kind of used to being second fiddle at least. But everyone has spoken so eloquently. You guys have asked great questions, and it is a complex issue. The unfortunate truth is none of these issues are simple. They're not simple for you. They have political ramifications, and I certainly understand that. You know, we spoke earlier about, you know, what an abhorrent situation it is that we have gotten to the point where people don't send their kids to school, and class cuts and tardies, and Ms. Miller addressed the numbers, and those numbers that she deals with on a daily basis are repeated at LD Bell and those kinds of things. There's another way to look at that. And I don't want to minimize the issue tonight before us, but one of the ways to look at that is what a great situation it is that we spend a majority of our day dealing with class cuts and tardies as opposed to you know, murders and weapons and drugs and those kinds of things. There is another way to look at that, but that makes it no less important that kids have to be in school, because one of the statements that was made was a very adept statement was that if we drag them back to school, there's no guarantee we're going to teach them. But then another statement that follows that has to be, if we don't get them in school, I can guarantee you that we're not. And so, anyway, like I said, I'll be brief. And so I think the central key points that I have ascertained tonight, just sitting here and listening, are these. One, this ordinance doesn't add much that we can't already do. The police officers can already address students on the street and can already ask them where they are and where they're supposed to be and those kinds of things. And my understanding is that hasn't been a huge issue of complaint with folks. And so to that I applaud Chief Laurie and the discretion of his Bedford police officers in knowing how to assess a situation effectively. I think that's a key point that can't be overlooked. I think secondly, that what we're really asking for, we talked about a partnership and working with you guys together, and not giving you the responsibility necessarily, but one of the things that we could look at is the fact that what this ordinance does do is it reinforces the concept that we now don't only have 2 truant officers that work for HEB, but we have a staff, however many police officers are on the street at any one time, we have a staff of potential truant officers to ensure that kids are where they're supposed to be doing what they're supposed to do. And I think it reinforces that concept, if nothing else. The other thing that I think is important and central to this discussion is that this whole discussion is aimed, somebody effectively said, it is aimed at a small group of people. It is not aimed at all 20,000 kids, because all 20,000 kids would never avail themselves of the need to be issued a truancy warrant or a truancy citation. But those that that small group of kids that it is focused upon are critical. They're just as critical as anyone else, and we need every opportunity we can to encourage those students to be where they're supposed to be, doing what they're supposed to do. I would say this, I want to make sure that the deterrent factor, you know, that can be a discussion that people can take up and debate back and forth, but I will tell you that if I'm sitting and talking to a student, we talked about interventions and quick interventions. We do have a process, a disciplinary process that we follow regarding truancies, class cuts, those kinds of things. And they involve detention halls, they involve assignment to the alternative education program, they involve long-term assignment to the alternative education program. None of those things are effective if you can't get the kid to school at all. He's not going to come to DL if he's not coming to school. He's not going to go to the alternative education program if he's not coming to school. So those things, but when you talk to a student, when I sit down across from a student and say, here's the deal. If you're on the street, not doing what you're supposed to do, not being where you're supposed to be, we're going to hit you in the pocketbook, and it is going to be fast, fair, and firm. It is going to be a citation. It's a citable offense. Then their ears peak just a little bit, and we begin to get a little bit of attention. I believe that's an absolute truth. Finally, the last thing I'll have to say, like I said, I will be brief. The last thing I have to say is this. The question was, well, where do we draw the line? I would assert that you drew the line back in September when you said this is important enough for us to pass. It's going to have political ramifications. It's going to be a controversial issue. It is a complex situation. There is nothing simple about it. But we think it's important enough to pass. And to waver on that and back away from it now, to me, would just be a problem for all of us that I don't think you guys really are willing to take on. And I appreciate your time.
Any questions, council? Thank you, Mr. Banister.
Thanks, sir.
Thanks for coming. Okay, brings us down to item 2, approval of the minutes. Do I hear